Hi, I'm Dave Blackburn. I'm a board member of Financial Narrative, and I am a brand-side marketer. I run a consultancy called Strat and Story that provides digital marketing and innovation consulting to financial services brands.
Hi, I'm Erika Alter. I'm a Financial Narrative member. I'm head of marketing for FundGuard, which is the industry's first cloud-native investment accounting platform. So we were talking, can talk about what you have stopped doing in this last year and some of the things you're doubling down on.
Yeah, so definitely one of the things I've stopped doing is attending webinars and online events like that. I find it much easier either to have an AI bot attend that in my place or get the transcript afterwards and extract a summary from that and get the same intelligence. It's just, it's a much more efficient use of time. And then things I'm doubling down on are trying the new tools. They evolve so quickly. There's new stuff coming out all the time. And in order to get the most out of it and to help my clients the most, I am definitely trying things, experimenting, pushing, and seeing where it goes and finding the best use.
Likewise, I'm also spending quite a lot of time, I would say, getting to know the capabilities of the different use cases for AI, the different types of chatbots. I'm definitely spending a lot less time doing dumb work on creative briefs, for example, or spending time trying to structure thoughts to go out to the agencies that I'm working with. Instead, I'm plugging in strategy into the chatbots. I'm telling them what I'm looking for, what the objectives are. I'm maybe building in strategic concepts and letting the bot translate that into cohesive thoughts for a creative team to be able to pick up and run with. So, speaking about the disruption, so to speak, that AI is bringing, I don't necessarily love that word disruption because it suggests that it's maybe not necessarily a good thing. I think it's actually creating quite a lot of efficiency so people can do smarter work. But with that in mind, how have you worked through the quote unquote disruption that AI is maybe bringing to status quo tactics?
Right. It's definitely, there is disruption and volatility in how we do our work, also volatility in the markets as we address our work, but it provides an incredible amount of opportunity as well, right? And I think we've both been doing this for a while, and it's not the first rodeo of major events or major innovations coming into place. And so let's just look at what the opportunities are, is the way I approach that. So it's an incredibly powerful tool. Every platform that we use already is rolling this stuff in. It, as you say, it helps build efficiencies in the team. It kind of levels up the team. It adds superpower to the team. And I also see it as a big democratization of a lot of what we do as marketers and communicators, where I can have a small team that is able to, you talked about putting out briefs and RFIs and things like that. That work happens very quickly. I can have people code things really quickly. We were already deep into low code and no code, and this is sort of codeless, right? This is voice to code. And that's amazing to have a small marketing team able to have those capabilities and run with it. And it's in the coding, it's in the copy, it's in the creative, it's in the strategy and the testing of messaging and positioning. Everything is made much more accessible, even to the small operators, in a way that probably was much more limited to the large organizations prior to this.
Yeah, agreed. One of the things that we're doing a lot of too is, I think it's the old adage about data, which is bad data in, bad data out. And understanding that, that's the message that I give to the external agencies that I'm working with. We're also a very tiny but mighty and agile marketing team supported by a few different agencies for creative, for content creation, et cetera. And I've said to the agencies that I work with that AI is not going to replace them because I am not an art director, I'm not a designer. So my feeding any kind of input into an AI bot and expecting it to turn out beautiful design work, it's not going to happen because I'm the bad data in. It still needs the voice of that thoughtful, strategic designer feeding it information, right? And so I look at it as more of, it's almost like having a brand new employee who's fresh out of school, has a lot to learn, but they're very smart and they have a lot of will to learn. And you spend time and have a lot of patience with that person, in this case now these bots, to teach them and train them and provide constructive critique to get them to a point, them being the bots, where they're able to support you and take some of the busy work out of your hands. But again, in no way is it replacing the agencies. If anything, it's giving more structure to your own direction so that they can do better work.
I see it not just as one new hire, but it's an infinite number of new hires. I can have 1,000 bots working on the things. And as you say, I feel like that allows the actual people, the experts, who have mastered the craft to really spend their time doing that and letting the grunt work be handled by the bots.
Yeah, agreed.
For sure. So tell me a little bit about the challenges that you have working in a regulated industry with compliance, risk, et cetera. How do you handle that and how do you overcome that?
So I will say, as a marketer in the fintech space, I do have a bit more leeway, I think, when it comes to how I use AI, how I'm able to use AI. We don't necessarily have the same regulatory and compliance constraints that a financial services firm might have, or an RIA. So I think my counterparts on the financial services side who are marketing, they're going to find AI more of a challenge because they are, almost required to more efficiently and effectively prove its efficacy, right? And the way in which they use the information. And I think, even though we may not necessarily on the fintech side, depending on the tech and who we're serving, have those same constraints, I think that there's still, we all have a moral compass about how we want to use AI. And so what I think is important is that we continue to generate content that comes from within, and that is then fed to the bots with different types of prompts to improve upon it in terms of the way it's structured and in terms of clarity and brevity. But it needs to still be original ideas, original thoughts. It needs to have been run through anything you're asking for, anything you're feeding it needs to have already gone through those layers of approval so that by the time the output comes to you, it's correct, it's accurate, it ticks all of the compliance boxes.
And do you think compliance is on board with that process? Are they
That's
rolling
a good
with
question.
it?
I think what's funny is I think there's actually a lot of compliance teams that are getting their own heads around how they use AI, and I think that a year ago that may not have been the case, but they're now using AI themselves for checks and balances on these things. And so again, I think that if you want to, as a marketer, work efficiently with your compliance teams or the legal team, is make sure that you have any messaging, any positioning, those strategies have been agreed upon and approved by those teams already, because what you're ultimately then delivering to them for final sign off is just various flavors of those already approved compliant messages or assets. That was fun.
Thank you.
Thank you. Cheers.